Board Game Homies. We're a group of friends, play, review, and share about all things board games. Sitting around the table today are
Reed,
Becky,
Gillian,
and I'm Angela. And today we have first, second, and third impressions of Harmonies and the White Castle, aka games so good we ran out and had to buy them, even though we told our spouses we wouldn't buy any more games. But first, what are you playing? What are you excited about? What is bringing you guys joy?
I'm really enjoying Spires and Hildegard. It's I don't know what to call the type of game, but you're basically doing like a choose your own adventure story. And in the 2-player version, you are sisters, and you're going through a deck of cards that you are flipping, and it's telling you like, oh, this came up, what are you going to do? And then you can choose to like go fight some ravens, and then you roll dice. And it's very beautiful and very simple. And we've made it through chapter 1, and I think we maybe have 3 or 6 chapters. I'm looking at Gillian because he knows more than I do.
we have 3 chapters total, so we are 2/3 of the way.
Okay, yeah. That makes me sad that we don't have 6 chapters. But it's great. And I actually think that Ashton would enjoy it. And so once we finish, we want to let you borrow it, Angela.
Oh, that's delightful. I'm glad that you guys trust me enough to have a board game leave your home and then come to my home where I may or may not spill things on it, because I think that's a level of friendship that we have achieved.
But that's legitimately never anything you've done. You've never done that. You've never spilled drinks on.
I think I'm just waiting for the moment for when I have to apologize that I spilled a drink on something, and I just like to pave the way.
I mean, Reed just comes to our house and spills drinks all over the place.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
One time, right?
I don't have a rebuttal for that. I in fact, am a spiller, but the one thing that I'm super... I was going to say anal, but that's not the right word.
You're one-track mind tonight.
Okay. One of the things that I am very meticulous about is board games, because it really bothers me to have board games that are incomplete or messed up, because then it feels like you're kind of trashing the whole game. So I am very meticulous about board games and not meticulous about anything else.
I'm excited to play Age of Innovation. It's a game it's the sequel or the spiritual successor of Terra Mystica. It's in the Terra Mystica world, really. And Terra Mystica is a game that really caught my eye when it came out. I think it was in 2016-ish. It's a heavy Euro game, and you're terraforming spaces, trying to become the most successful mystical civilization on the planet, I suppose, or in this world. And Age of Innovation takes place after that. It's really kind of the scientific revolution of that setting. And it plays very similarly. It's basically Terra Mystica 2.0, in my opinion. You really just add some additional aspects to the game where you're using books to convert to resources, to innovate, to create innovations that you can put into your own territories, and you're still terraforming and all that stuff, but it's the next phase of Terra Mystica. And so I'm excited to get that one to the table. We played it last night with Angela. A couple times back to back. It was the first time Angela had played it, any of the Terra Mystica line of games, really. And it was fun. It was great to get that to the table with 3 players, and we are going to play it with Reed next week. And so that'll be a lot of fun to get her perspective as well.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what Reed thinks about this game, because I think it's really wonderful. It was giving me life. It was giving me Clans of Caledonia. It was giving me resource management. I was like, ooh, I'm going to take a book here, and I'm going to get a man here. I'm going to kill that man. No, I'm kidding. There are no killing. But this game was one of those things that, like, you really, when you go over to someone's house and they want to share a thing that brings them joy, a game that they love. And Gillian had talked about Terra Mystica and how much he loved it. And so being able to share in that joy and that warmth is something. And I also think, Reed, that you're super going to enjoy it. And if you don't enjoy it, we will have to cull you and find a new friend. But I think it's a game you're really going to enjoy.
Unless it plays better at 3-player, and then you're just fine.
I mean, that's a really valid point.
I will say with Age of Innovation, one of the things I'm struggling with at the moment is whether or not I'm going to keep Terra Mystica now that Age of Innovation is here. I love the aesthetic of Age of Innovation. It's not too different, but it definitely has an updated aesthetic compared to Terra Mystica. And the variability in setup and factions, and combining that with the different powers is really unique. compared to Terra Mystica, where everything's kind of static and you're playing as a specific faction that's restricted to a specific type of land. But there's an elegance to Terra Mystica that I feel like is maybe a little bit lost after 3 plays of Age of Innovation. I feel like there's just Terra Mystica just seems a lot more streamlined. I think the scientific or the innovation aspect of Age of Innovation might just add a little bit much, and so it might fill a different space for me than Terra Mystica in a way. So
Yeah, I think as I said last night, the thing is if you get rid of that game, you will have created a spot to fill it with a new game. And so how do you balance that like love of wanting to add something new, and does a game provide you value that you will get multiple plays of it?
one of the things that's really, really making me resist getting rid of Terra Mystica is I have the expansion and I have a really nice insert for the game. Not just folded space, but it's a really nice wooden insert that, it just brings me joy. And so I've invested a lot more money in that than I probably should have. But
maybe we just need a play of that, too.
I know. Maybe that's the next 4-player get together. We play Terra Mystica. Then Age of Innovation right after. Sorry.
I did find it interesting when we were deciding with Angela. You and I looked at each other and we're like, do we play Age of Innovation or do we play Terra Mystica to teach her? And we decided just to go for Age of Innovation. So I think that kind of says something, too, about whether or not we need Terra Mystica.
It tells us that we were too lazy to go downstairs, grab Terra Mystica.
I was going to say Terra Mystica is already downstairs in the potentially culling pile, so...
But so was Brass Lancashire, and we played that, and Gillian was like, nope, we're not getting rid of it now.
Well, I will say Brass Lancashire was not downstairs. It was in the potential coal pile, which is still upstairs where our main board game collection is.
Yes, I do have to give you the fabulous game room studio that we are in is first a wonderful collection of board games in perfectly alphabetical order, but then there's a small section of trash games that might be on their way out, which is really fun. And then I think there's a downstairs hole where the cold games are, just to paint you just a real beautiful picture of what it looks like where we record and play. We will certainly have to update you guys on how that game goes because I think Reed will really like it. It has some similar mechanisms to a lot of different games and gave me Clans of Caledonia vibes, which I'm starting to fall more and more in love with. And I like this as when your friends share a game that they love, this is something that Gillian's been talking about as a series of games that he really loves, Terra Mystica, and we've never gotten a chance to play it. So to be able to play Age of Innovation feels like you're being able to kind of validate someone's warm opinion of a game. There's always that worry, but I really liked this game. I thought about it a lot last night and I was like, wow, I just can't wait till Reed plays it because I think Reed will like it. And if Reed comes back and says that it's trash, we will cull Reed from our group, but I feel like that's kind of okay.
Agreed.
Reed stays.
Angela, you're gone.
Oh gosh, golly jeepers. Well, I'm really excited about Thunder Road Vendetta. The Kickstarter just closed for the relaunch of Thunder Road Vendetta, and it's a game where it's very silly. It's no Age of Innovation or Brass Birmingham. It is a very silly game where you have these little cars of different sizes that give me Micro Machine vibes, and you race them down a track. And things blow up and you try and shoot your opponents. And it's very much vroom, vroom, fun. And I like a game that's really silly like that. It's been hard to find this game in print in places. It seems to sell out. And so I snagged some of the expansions that were only available on the Kickstarter. But I was talking with a group of coworkers and they were like, well, what games would you pick if you were to play with people who don't super... play a lot of board games? And this was the game that I thought of immediately because it's so silly and kind of over the top, but also does have a strategic edge to it, but you can't control the dice. And just watching people yeet themselves is 10 out of 10.
Or you yeet them. That's
or
great,
you
too.
yeet them. Yeah, totally.
Into a cliffside.
So I work in San Francisco and we live in Eugene, which is about an 8-hour or so drive if I'm going by myself. And I recently made that drive and decided to listen to about 15 hours of that in Ark Nova content. And so I devoured everything about Ark Nova because I really want to be good at that game, especially if we're going to invest all the time into playing it. And so I am looking very forward to playing that and feel like I kind of understand it. But what I'm worried about is that the consensus is that it kind of plays trash at 4 players. And so I'm hoping that one of us does get cold along the way, and then we can do it at 3 or maybe even 2 players. It just sounds like it's going to be 6 hours and a mess the first time we play. So I'm maybe looking forward to our second play of that a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not too worried about it. I think it'll be fine to give it a go at 4 players, see how we do. We're all very experienced gamers at this point. So, yeah, I think it'll be fine. I mean, Terraforming Mars wasn't a slouch either in the time department.
Especially when we played all 3 Terraforming Mars games within one day. That was an investment in time.
That was amazing. But Reed, we will all have each other through those 6 hours of Ark Nova. And that is more important than culling one of us.
I thought you were just going to say if we were to play all 3 Terraforming Mars games again, we wouldn't have all 3 or all 4 of us during that whole time.
I am curious to see how Becky enjoys it, because Ark Nova is a game that I've been trying to convince Becky to buy really since it was the hotness in 2020, 2021 when it first came out. Was it 2022? Oh man, time is weird. But when Ark Nova first came out, it was really hot, and I was very tempted to buy it. But Becky looked at it and said, "Ew, zoos," and that was the story.
I understand ew, zoos. It's more of a conservation game, so you have to think about you're conserving animals rather than exploiting them. Is my hope. Angela recently talked about getting a bunch of board games on sale. And Ark Nova was one of them. And we literally have a picture of Gillian hugging Ark Nova. So I think he also wants to really get to the table.
Yes.
Yeah, this is a game that's been kind of in that repertoire of, I'm fascinated to see how Reed likes it, because Reed loves these big stack cards, just based off of her love of Terraforming Mars, and this is another big stack game. And so I wonder if your love is only for Terraforming Mars, or if these big stack card games like Ark Nova and Earth really do tickle that part of your brain. And so I'm really excited, dear listener, for when we do that Ark Nova review, because it's maintained its place in the hotness on BGG for a really long time. It's still up there. So I love watching, the great thing about playing with your friends is that sometimes their reaction to games is what fuels you. And sometimes when they tell you that a game is hot garbage trash and you should immediately sell it, I find that just as interesting.
But it doesn't hurt your feelings when somebody says the game that you just invested time and money in is hot garbage?
Only if I can't get back a decent amount of money on the resale value.
Okay, so has Kunahora sold on that point?
Oh, no, we can't talk about that.
Speaking of the dice game, I think that there was consensus that was hot garbage trash and that I should get rid of it.
Reed, we knew that going in before you even bought it, and you still proceeded to buy it. And we basically proved a point that the general community knew that it was hot garbage well before we did.
There are way too many positive reviews of that game.
You didn't think this podcast was going to be about the Terraforming Mars episodes. We will one day release what is a 3-hour 2-part epic of us playing all 3 Terraforming Mars games. But until then, I think we have to leave it hidden in the closet. And just as a spoiler, the dice game is trash. Don't listen to what you've heard. By Ares Expedition.
Only listen to what you've heard if it says it's bad.
The first game we're going to talk about is Harmonies, published by Libellud, which I think is French, so not great on my pronunciation. The designer is Johan Benvenito, artwork by Meva de la Silva. It's a 2024 release that plays 1 to 4 people and retails for $34.99. Gillian, how do we play this game?
In Harmonies, you'll be building landscapes by placing chunky wooden screen-printed tokens and trying to create habitats for animals that you draw into your landscape. So you're going to be scoring points based on how well you incorporate the habitats into your landscapes and how many animals you can settle in your landscape as well. And so the game takes place over the course of really an indeterminate number of rounds, just until the number of tokens from the bag are depleted and you can't draw anymore, or until somebody does a bang-up job at actually filling their board so that there are 2 or fewer spaces left on your personal little hex board there. And so you're going to score points at the end based on 2 different groups of variables. One being the landscape that you've developed. So you're going to score based on kind of the plains, how many plains you have linked together, how many mountain chains that you have developed, and how tall the mountains are within that chain, and how the river has developed, depending on which side of the board you play on. And then you'll also be scoring based on the animals that you've managed to lure to your landscape and how well you've manipulated your landscape so that they suit the habitat that's required by each animal. So you'd be placing little cubes out from these animal cards to denote that you've drawn more of that type of animal into this landscape and you've created the habitat that they require. And the more animals you bring, the more of those cubes you manage to put onto your landscape, the better off you'll be. And so your goal is really twofold. You're going to try to build landscapes efficiently to meet the criteria in the game, and then you're also going to be drawing animals into your landscape and develop habitats suitable for them.
I think that I played one turn and then I squealed and I was like, I love this game. It's so pretty. It's so fun. It's like if Cascadia and Azul had a baby with some pretty little cubes in it. I loved it. It was great. It is great.
I was away from home when you guys played Harmonies for the first time, the 3 of you. And the next morning, Gillian and I talked on the phone, and he shared that story with me, and it made my heart so happy.
I will say, like, this was a game that I kind of bought on a whim. I literally saw it 2 days prior on the YouTube channel Thinker Themer. They did an overview of the game, and I didn't even watch the video. I just saw the thumbnail picture, and then I maybe actually watched a couple of minutes of it. And I said, "Oh, this looks like a fun game." And I assumed it was just on Kickstarter, so I didn't even bother looking it up. And then the next week, I saw it at our local game store, and I said, "Oh, Becky, we should buy this." And so we bought it, played it, and we loved it. And then had to show Angela and Reed.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised because I think when you said, hey, you're going to love this game a lot, you should go out, you're probably going to buy it. And that coming from Becky and Gillian, who I think know kind of our board gaming tastes, were like, girl, you are going to have regrets if you don't do this. And our board game shop had actually, I think, sold out of the game. And I was like, I won't have regrets. But I'm committed to not buying a board game until I've played it. I've changed my ways. And then we played it, and I was like, how quick can I go buy this game? And thankfully, our board game shop had restocked, and there were 3 copies. And I was like, when can I get to the board game shop? Because it closes at 6. This game is just really wonderful. Cascadia was one of my favorite games of the year, I think 2 years ago. And I think it's just such a welcoming, open game. You've taken these mechanics of taking things, and what I really like about it is you're not going to get everything you want because you're taking a pile of 3 tokens. And so the last game we played, I had 1 yellow sand, like plains token, and I was like, you're a little crap token, I don't like you. But it came with like 2 water tokens that I really wanted. And I love this push and pull of like, hey, you're going to get some things you want, but you're also going to get some things you don't want. And so you're trying to balance and negate the negatives while amplifying the positives. And I think it just has such a great approachability level, because one might say like we're a little crunchy on the gamer level, but this game seems super approachable. Like I'm so excited to play this with my girlfriend who loves Cascadia and Azul.
One thing I really like about Harmonies is how quickly it plays. It plays in about 20 to 30 minutes with 4 players. And I will say, though, that it is very much kind of multiplayer solitaire in a way. You're still looking to see what other people are drafting from the central pool of tiles. But beyond that, you're kind of dealing with your own individual puzzle, which is very satisfying, in my opinion. And given that it plays so quickly, I think it's a boon in its favor.
I mean, you say it's multiplayer solitude, but one would ask you, Gillian, how many blue tiles did you get in the last game?
I got 3 because Angela was in front of me and she was drafting all the goddamn river tiles. Sorry. Hold on, wait. The gosh dang river tiles.
I do like that. And I think that's a piece around Azul and Cascadia is that, yeah, there's not a lot of like player interaction, but your friend or loved one will snipe you. And they won't care, and they'll laugh at you with glee as they pull the tiles from the board. And then you'll say, why would you do that? And you say, because I don't care.
One of the other components of this game is that it has a module in a way of the spirits. So they're basically kind of souped up animals that allow you to, once you actually achieve the habitat for the spirit, it resides in your landscape, and then it will score you points, multiple points, based on how many instances of certain criteria that you meet of that type of habitat. And so we played with that in the game before you started recording this, and it was interesting because, yeah, Angela had one that worked off of all the river tiles. She got points for each individual river token that she had, and so it was, my landscape was drought ridden.
I really love that Angela is taking all the flack for taking the river tiles because I took anything that was left that nobody else got.
I don't think that you should hate the player, but I also don't think you should hate this game. It just was really awesome, and you're welcome.
Well, the second time Gillian and I played it together, I remember feeling disappointed when all the animals on the board that were available we had already seen in the first game. So I definitely get that feeling of like, oh, maybe this does need an expansion sooner than later. But even though you see a lot of the same animals, like it's still really fun and it's a really great puzzle. But I did have that feeling in the second game, like, oh, but I've seen these animals.
Yeah, certainly if you play it a lot, you'll see the same animals kind of go through. I will also say that in a 2-player game, that doesn't necessarily cycle very frequently. So that little tableau of animals was fairly static. So I don't know, it may be simple enough to just add a little house rule there to, at the end of each turn, just remove the rightmost one or whatnot. But
Did you just suggest a house rule, Gillian?
Yeah, I'm kind of disturbed by that.
Or an improvement that they could make to the game as a post-production rule change.
Well, we know who's getting cold, I mean, I would be really sad that Malcolm would lose a parent, but house rules are so complicated. I can't believe we suggested that.
Says the person who refuses to play Ticket to Ride without a house rule.
That is
Okay,
you
I will
need
not
that.
play Ticket to Ride without that house rule that Angela has, which is that you can do 2 actions on one turn if one of the actions is drawing a card.
It's basically take actions and place trains. So you can take cards and you can place. And that is, to my death, the only house rule I will ever play with.
See, dear audience, I've been pointed at for no reason.
Although Gillian and I do have big feelings about house rules, and so that's why we're all shocked over here.
Yeah. I'm just saying 2-player variant.
Well, and to be fair with what Gillian is saying, not only that you don't see as much of a difference through the animal cards, but also the tiles. There's only one group of the, is it 5 tiles? There's only one group that's removed before your turn and replaced. So if neither of you like what's on that board, you're stuck with it for a very long time. So I am kind of surprised that there wasn't a special 2-player rule where you either randomly select one or pick 2 or something.
I'm sure folks on Board Game Geek have come up with something or suggested things, so I'd be interested to do a deep dive there.
But that's one of the things I really like about Azul is that sometimes you're just left with crud and you have to make the best of a bad situation, and I could definitely see that happening. I think also the first time we played this game, it ended so quickly, quicker than I thought, where I was like, oh my gosh, it ended. And I think it just plays differently at 2, 3, and 4, and I actually really appreciate that about something, is like it feels different because we got to the end of the bag at a 4-player game, but at a 3-player game, we never got close to that because Gillian ended the game, and I was like, oh gosh, golly.
We ask ourselves a lot, or actually Angela asks me with a pointed look on her face and says, before you buy this, who would you play it with? And that is one of the measures of, would we just play it with people around the table, or would we play it with people outside of this group of game Homies, and I think that Harmonies is a game that I could introduce to newer, lighter gamers. I could play with my husband, mom, son. I think that it's a little bit complex for my son as an 8-year-old. I think that the element of the animals and placing the cubes is a little bit more complicated than he can handle now. But as we play more games and maybe in a few months, he could get it.
I think this is a great game to bring out for all different folks of game playing ages. At $35, it's about what you would pay for a game like this. I wish it was maybe a little less expensive, but the pieces are really nice, and so I think it's worth it in the production value itself. And like Reed said, we usually talk about who would this game be for, and the fact that after one play we both squeed with joy is that I think it's just so approachable for so many people that it's a great addition. If you're looking for a next little crunchier family game that isn't a party game, I have to say, like, you should run out and buy Harmonies if you can find it on the shelf. Super, especially if you've enjoyed Cascadia, and if you're looking for something new in your Azul game, this is a game that's really on point.
Yeah, and to that point, one question that I think I have for Reed, if I'm not mistaken, you had said you're not sure if you would keep Cascadia if you got this game.
No, I would definitely keep Cascadia. I was like, do I like this more than Cascadia? Or maybe I even asserted, I do like this more than Cascadia. I like a meaty game that is strategy and that you get to look at and you just lose yourself in. And Cascadia isn't necessarily that for me. It's a very fun, beautiful, easy game to play that you kind of, it's a little puzzly as you're trying to put it together. But this game is a puzzle for your brain as you're like, oh, I really want this piece, but it needs to be on the second story of something. So I have to put this piece first. And then, all of the animal cards that give you their own mini puzzles to figure out. And hey, I used this piece for that, but I can't use this to get my animal cube on because I've already used that. All of that is just a depth that I think that Cascadia doesn't have, that I love that about Harmonies, because I think that it just has more strategy in it.
The next game we're going to talk about is The White Castle, published by Devir Games, designed by Isra C. and Shay S., artwork by Joan Gardiet. It's a 2023 release that plays 1 to 4 people and retails for $39.99. Gillian, how do we play The White Castle?
In The White Castle, you'll be taking on the role of leaders of minor clans who are vying for position in their clan's future in the court of the White Heron in Himeji Castle. You're trying to get the most influence throughout the game, influence with the daimyo of the castle, by sending family members to different regions on the castle grounds or levels in the castle. There are 3 main areas that you'll be trying to send family members to. You'll be trying to send them to the gardens, where they're going to give you endgame victory points and immediate resource goals, or resources, or other actions that you can take. You'll also be sending your family members into the castle proper and going through the levels of the castle, beginning at the lowest level into the mid-tier and eventually going up to the highest tier where the daimyo is. So getting influence in that way. And for each clans or each family member that you have in the castle, you're going to get victory points at the end of the game. And then the third region that you can send your family members to are the training grounds, where they will kind of work in conjunction with the family members that you've sent to the castle directly by scoring victory points at the end. This game is based on dice actions. So there are 3 bridges in the game with different dice, so red, black, white. And the color there is important because you're going to be selecting a die on your turn to assign to a specific spot that has a specific face value. And the interesting aspect of that is if you use a die that has a higher value than the space that you're going to get money equal to the difference in the pip value of the board space and the die that you're placing. Or if you place a lower value die, you're going to have to pay coins. So that's kind of a resource aspect there. There are a lot of different spaces within the castle that you can use. A lot of them give you resources. Other ones allow you to activate your kind of personal tableau or your lantern spaces. Others will give you the ability to move up on the White Heron track, which is going to score you endgame victory points if you advance high enough. And one thing that's really unique about this game is really the limit to the number of actions you have. So over the course of the game, you're going to have 9 actions total. So the game takes place over 3 rounds, each of which consists of 3 actions. And so each action you take is going to be very valuable to you. And so you will need to balance your resources, balance kind of where you send your family members to really make it the most beneficial to you. And one of the interesting things about this is that you can combo in the game very well if you plan in advance. So you can take if you place a die, it may trigger an action that lets you take another action, which will then you get you resources. So it's really about kind of looking ahead a little bit and seeing where you might be able to take advantage of the dice and the dice placement spaces that are available to you.
This game is absolutely beautiful. It is stunning. The colors are beautiful. The board is very thoughtful. The bridges are really cool. You put them together. It's a few cardboard pieces and they're like 3D bridges. It's just absolutely stunning.
Becky, I totally agree. This game is beautiful. I saw this game laid out and thought, I want to frame this. I want to look at this. I want to have this in my collection so that I can think about it and feel the pieces and look at how they all go together. It feels so intentional, from the size of the box being very compact and neatly every piece kind of tucks in there and the board folds out. It just feels like it's a very well put together game. And I definitely ran out and bought it. Like, I was like, this game is so fantastic.
Yeah, there's a piece. This game got a lot of hype in 2023. It made a lot of people's top 10 lists, and it didn't resonate with me even after all of those really positive things that people had to say. And I think most of that had to deal with the 9 action turns. And I was like, this game is very beautiful. This game does look interesting. And also, I'm not a very smart player sometimes. And so thinking ahead can be like explode my brain in a way. After one turn, your brain explodes. And so I didn't think that I was going to resonate with this game, to be honest. And notoriously passed this one over to get Kutnahora from CGE. Sometimes on BGA, the board game arena, I spite play Lost Ruins of Arnak, which is kind of a combo wombo-y kind of game where one action leads to another with deck building. And I spite play it because I don't love it, and I think I'm trying to make myself love it a bit. And so I thought I was going to get that same experience playing this game of like 9 turns, and I have to think so far ahead, and I'm not going to be able to do anything. And the play of the game was just kind of beautiful. Like, I don't know how to say that it matches the artwork in a way, but it has that really nice dice mechanic that Castles of Burgundy has, which is you can modify dice, gain benefits, or have to pay more for dice placement. And the combos just flow so naturally for what you're doing that I think the game play is also just so elegant.
Every game of this that I've played, there has always been a moment where I'm trying to figure out how can I do so many things in my one action. And I just think like, wow, every single thing they've thought through is so clever. There are gray actions and white banner actions throughout the castle. And there's always something that I'm trying to do, but I don't even understand how they did it so well.
Yeah, I was commenting on that exact thing the last time we played, because when you go up into the castle, you'll take a card and put it on your own personal space. You have 3 actions on your own personal board that are associated with the different colored dice. And if you say, do the red die action, you'll gain food. But the action that's always, like, if there is an action that allows you to put one of your family members on the board, it's never the one that uses food. So they intentionally did it so that each of those rows never line up with the one that uses the resources in those rows. So yeah, exactly like that. It's just the way that they've designed it and made it so that those types of things they never line up perfectly. Makes you think in a much more in-depth way than, you might otherwise. So yeah, it's a very brain-burny game, I would say.
The puzzle that it presents in your brain is so fun to be looking at the board and thinking, oh, if I go here, I need to do this. So what does moving to this other spot, how does it get me to go up into the castle? What are the different pathways that I can put out a warrior? What are the different pathways that I can put out a farmer? And so you think about all of these different things, and then somebody puts a dice where you want to put yours. And so you're kind of reevaluating, or you're looking and saying, oh, there's no way for me to go and do what I want to do. So I need to prepare for the time that I can do that. And thinking about the combos, I think Angela got as close to a perfect combo as Angela could, which was, putting a warrior up that allowed you to do an action on your board, which allowed you to put a warrior up. But it was just this cycle of being able to do this until you ran out of resources to be able to pay for the warriors. And it was like, wait, did you just empty your board right there?
Yeah, I was like, wow, this must be cheating. And it's not. And what I super appreciate about this game is every play has felt so totally different. And every strategy has been very different from each other, because the cards are a variable, but also the dice color on each of those actions is randomly selected for each game. So nothing's ever really going to be the same for things. And even that play where I was like, oh my God, I've played what feels like a perfect game. I lost that game on a tiebreaker. And I was like, wow, I think I've played the most perfect game and I've lost. And it's like, let's play it again. Like, just that excitement from, again, like, I am not very smart, but playing this game and coming so close to winning and losing on a tiebreaker, I was like, wow, let's do it again. And then I think we played it a third time at some point, and I got utterly trounced in it. And I was like, wow, let's play it again. And so it's a game I continually think about, which is so like, oh, I wouldn't mind playing White Castle right now.
The White Castle.
The White Castle. Not to be confused with the burger joint White Castle. The White Castle.
I have played this game now, I believe, at 2, 3, and 4 players. And I would say 3 and 4 players feels like genuinely kind of the same. But playing at 2 players is very different. You don't have access to all of the cards. You remove some of the cards from the drawing deck. But you also can't stack dice, which you can do in a 3 and a 4 player game. So if someone takes a spot, you don't have another chance to do it. It is gone. And then that further eliminates access to one of the major moves that you would want to do.
Yeah, I would say it's interesting because we had a situation in the most recent game we played where I wasn't thinking far enough ahead. I was first player, and it came around to the end of my second turn. I did an action. I was like, I'm going to have a chance at this next action that I'm eyeing. And before I knew it, I looked at the board when it was my last turn, and all the red dice were gone. Both of the actions that allowed you to go into the castle or the training grounds or the garden were all filled. And I had no way to do the garden action. There was nothing on the board that allowed me to do it. When I left my second turn, there were 3 options available to me, and then by the time it got around to me, there was nothing. So it's just interesting because you have to adapt in a way to how other people are playing and what's available to you. But even as first player, I wasn't able to do what I wanted to do at the end of the round.
So you would think with only 9 turns, the game would move really quickly, but it doesn't, because you're kind of stuck on what you're thinking you're going to do next. And you need all of the time as the board goes around to be like, what am I doing? Not now, but 4 turns from now. And you kind of have to find these different strategies. As soon as the board and the cards are placed, you have very limited turns to kind of pivot, but then the game forces you to pivot sometimes because some jerks come along and use all the red dice. And so you're constantly trying to balance and say, okay, I need all of this time to think out turns 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. and then somebody places a dice and you're like, gosh golly, I don't have enough money to up that dice. And I love that push and pull, and I need every single second. And that's what keeps me really engrossed in a game, is when I can't look away, when I can't do something else. It forces me to think creatively and on my toes. And I think that's one of the things, even if I don't win a lot, it's what I enjoy about the game.
This game's elegance is in its simplicity, and it's kind of a deceptive simplicity. The game has just icons on it. Like, you navigate a system of icons in order to see, oh, this is food, this is pearls, these are these things that you need. And so we've had this kind of big debate about this game, like, who would I play it with, and who, like, what is the level of skill needed for this game? Because it seems so simple. Is it actually a simple game, or is it simple because we've played a lot of games and know different mechanics that might come into play? And that I don't know the answer to that, but I think it is interesting in that it feels deceptively simple.
Yeah, that's a piece that, and spoiler, because we told you in the beginning, these are games that we ran out and bought. I ran out and bought Harmonies. We sat at this table, as we do after we play a game, and said, Reed, you can't buy this game. Like, who are you going to actually play this game with? But I think you were so in love with it that we got a text message that was like, I bought it. I don't know how. It fell in my trunk. But it is such a good, like, I wish I could go out and buy it. But I just know there's nobody in my circle of humans that I'm really going to be able to play this game with that isn't sitting at this table for me to get enough plays per use. And so I think that's a balance for this game, is I love, love, love it. And I want to play it all the time. And also, I don't think it has a place in my personal collection.
I'm excited for you both to try the Red Cathedral, which is kind of the predecessor, the spiritual predecessor of the White Castle. It's not really similar at all. It's a Euro game, like the White Castle, but it's built on a rondel system, still dice action selection in a way. And so I'm excited to try that. We bought that after we played the White Castle and loved it, because we had played the Red Cathedral, a year or so ago with a couple other friends that owned it, and we really enjoyed it. Didn't buy it at the time, but now that the White Castle ended up in our collection, and we really enjoyed it, it brought fond memories of the Red Cathedral, and so we bought that too. So excited to try that.
Yeah, I feel like Devir Games is really knocking it out of the park with their small box lineup. Like, Harmonies cost $35.99, and I would tell you that that's a super approachable game for lots of different people who are even mildly interested in board games. But for $39.99 to get a game as complex of depth and strategy and beauty like the White Castle is, I just think that Devir is doing a really great job with their small box lineup, from Red Cathedral, Salt and Sea, which I think has just released, and they have a new game coming out called Sand, which I'm excited about. And being able to talk about a publisher that I'm like, wow, these games are really interesting and fun. And yeah, I'm probably not going to like all of them, but I think that they're doing great things in the space that make me want to play more at this price point, because when every dollar you're kind of trying to get this experience from the White Castle, like, this is what I would expect from a $60 or $80 game in terms of, like, brain warming explodiness, and you're getting it in a really tight package for less than $40. So I really appreciate that from Devir Games.
Yeah. And how do you feel about those coins?
I think that's the one piece. Gillian is referencing something. King of Upgrades has decided not to upgrade their coins in this game.
I think you could use real yen. Like, I think you just get real yen for this, and that would be fine. I did punch out the yen today, which was very evocative of punching out the yen in Tokaido. And I was like, I need a chopstick to, like, jam this in here. So yeah, not super pleasant to punch out the holes in the middle of the coin.
I do think there is a little bit of fiddliness to this game. Like,
shocked expression.
Okay,
You heard
I
a
would like
gasp.
to explain myself. I have some really intense eyes looking at me all around this table. Okay, there are two things. One, I think, like, if you kind of have a hard time with fine motor skills, I do think that the 3 different people, they're so close to each other on your own personal board that it's really easy to knock them around. And sometimes even just like trying to grab them right alongside the other ones is kind of tricky. And I talked about the bridge in the beginning, which I really love it. It's such a fun touch. But I also think like it can be a little bit tricky as you're moving the dice around on that. It's not necessarily required. Like if that was something that you had a hard time with, you could definitely play it without the bridge, which I think is also good. But I feel like I have decent fine motor skills, but every now and then I feel like my fingers are like, I don't know, klutzy with those things.
I mean, it's fair. I like knocked over all my family members the last time we played and took forever to get them lined back up.
I always knock over all of them. And I was like, I didn't think about it as like an issue with the modality levels of the game. I was just like, oh, I'm just a klutz. But you're right.
Yeah, I think we were very shookith when you said that. And I was like, no, actually, those are really great points. Not to mention that like the 3 symbols for the colors, if you have a vision impairment or it's hard to see, you may not be able, it doesn't have like sea salt and paper, the little color code for what each of the colors are. And you're right, like I think if you were to dig into some of those pieces, that there was a little bit of things that they could do to help folks who have some of those pieces.
I also feel a little bit annoyed in the setup when you are like, oh, if all of the cards with the dark background are the same action, you reshuffle them and put them back out again. And also if a room has all the same colored dice tiles, you have to like move it to the next one and put a different dice tile in there, which is not a big deal. But during the set, I'm like, oh, this is annoying. And wait, which one's going to have the same color? So I'm always thinking about it and I have a hard time finding it in the rule book. I say this every time Gillian and I pull out a game to play again, but I feel like I need to write an index card with commonly forgotten things. And that is one of the things that would go on there for me. But with that, even though I do find it kind of annoying, during the game, it's just, like we all said, it's so thoughtful the way everything works out that I'm glad those rules are there in the setup.
I love how in every game we just come up with a nickname for one of the pieces. And so the little daimyo seals, we're like, it's persimmon, it's a whatever. So I think we settled on like persimmon. That the guys I send to the castle are my little fat boys. Rake dude are my gardeners. Because I can't remember things, so I'm always like, what if I just made things up and nobody calls me on it? And then Gillian's like, so that's called this. And I'm going to move this to this. And I was like, that's great that you have good rememberings.
Good rememberings.
Thank you for listening to Board Game Homies. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and drop us a line on our Instagram page at Board Game Homies. See you next time. Okay.
What is wrong with me?
Girl, we need a whole nother podcast.
Oh,
I was going to say you're perfect.
Becky, don't lie.
Maybe it's like-
Nobody's perfect.
I was going to say anal players versus non-anal players.
Whoa.
And I was like, that wouldn't come out very well.
That's how we lose our PG rating on this podcast.
We've kind of already done that with Becky saying butt.
Yeah.
Me?
Heckin's rude.
Heckin's rude.